This is a brake booster on a 1972 Mercedes, so it's 50 years old. And its days are numbered. Why do I say that? Well, that's the purpose of this video. I'm going to show you now why the days are numbered on these old brake boosters. And this is important because these aren't available new. And if they were, they'd be hundreds of dollars, maybe even over $1,000 if you could get one from the Classic Center. So it's very important for these old classics that you protect your booster. And you want to know the number one reason why these boosters fail? It's because of this, the master cylinder. So I had this old booster sitting around the shop. This is not the one from the car that I just showed you. And I decided I'm going to take this apart to see if I can't prove my point. And as soon as we bent the tabs up and pull this front cover off, take a look right there. So why do you think that booster is failing? Do you think the rubber diaphragm is cracked? Do you think the rubber diaphragm is worn out? No. There's rust in here. Is this rust just from it sitting around in a damp storage building? No. This rust you see here is very aggressive rust, and it's caused by moisture that's absorbed into brake fluid. So brake fluid is getting into the booster from the master cylinder. You know what's interesting about this? Is you can be driving the car for 4 or 5 years and the brakes are working fine. I don't need to fix my master cylinder. The brakes work great. The problem is, let me show you. This is a master cylinder off a 45 to 50-year-old Mercedes that I decided to pull apart and see if I could prove my point here with a master cylinder. And sure enough, I can. It was obvious that this thing was leaking out the back. You can see it has multiple seals inside, but these are the ones that seal the back end. This is the shaft that goes into the brake booster. And you can see that these two seals have flattened out. Most of these other seals have a lip on them. I pull these master cylinders apart, and it's amazing that these seals are still working because of this lip. That's why they seem to last so long. They usually fail because of lack of brake fluid changes, and you get all this gunk showing up inside. So the big problem is not failure of the seals internally, but failure of the exit seal going into the brake booster. How inconvenient. Because these boosters are getting very hard to find. And if you want to protect your brake booster, this is something you're going to have to look at and possibly deal with it. And what I'm finding is that almost all of these have failed seals. But what's interesting is the new seal kits appear to have re-engineered this seal so it's less prone to leaking. Now I've got another one I want to pull apart for you. This is a brake booster out of a late W123 and it failed. The owner took it out, said it didn't work. I don't know what's wrong with it, but we're going to take it back in the machine shop. We're going to bend these tabs up and we're going to take this one apart and let's see if we can figure out what's going on inside and why it failed. And along with that, the master cylinder also failed. Looked like someone was trying to make sure it wasn't leaking vacuum out of the booster with a couple of seals there. So these are fairly easy to take apart. Obviously, if they're all frozen up and rusty inside, that's not true. You just remove this clip back here and you should be able to pull the guts out of this. So we'll pull this apart and come back and show you what we find. You wonder why I'm laughing. The more I looked at this, I said, wow, I didn't even notice that when I first started showing you this. But look at how rough this surface is. No wonder it's leaking and not sealing. It looks like somebody took a screwdriver or something and pried in there to pry off the master cylinder. So hey, just be very careful when working on one of these. You have to make sure this surface is perfectly flat or you're going to find out your booster is not going to work. This is what this surface should look like. If it's rusty and corroded and still smooth, then you need to clean it up and repaint it Here is the booster out of a W123 that we just took apart. And you know, they say the proof is in the pudding. I say the proof is inside the booster. Take a look. This is what you're going to see over and over again when brake fluid leaks out of the back of the master cylinder and gets into the bottom of the booster. So you see, it's not a matter of just, oh, I don't need to replace my master cylinder because, you know, the brakes are working okay. You need to protect your valuable boosters. In a few more years from now, these are going to even be more valuable and more difficult to get. Now, we're going to have a little fun with this one. We're going to try to clean up the seal, and we're going to try to clean up all the rust. We're going to clean all this up and coat this with Miracle Paint, and we're going to put this back together and see if we can get it working again. Of course, we're going to have to straighten up the bad edge here, but I can't believe somebody did that. Got a couple of screwdrivers and pried the master cylinder off. But I think I can smooth that out, even if I have to use a little bit of Bondo to get it perfectly smooth. We can get this face flattened out, get this diaphragm all cleaned up, get rid of the rust, and put it back together. Now let's take a look at that master cylinder off of W123. It's different than the old style like on the W108. It has a much larger seal at the back end, but I'm looking at the seal and you can see from the rust that it has been leaking brake fluid out the back end, even though the seals on the master cylinder themselves are still soft and the lips are still in good condition. Where am I going to go from here? I've decided that this is such a big issue for these old classic Mercedes that I'm going to start working on some solutions for owners to be able to rebuild their own master cylinders and to take apart, clean up, and possibly even repair their old brake boosters. So this is the end of part 1 in this video series that I'm going to do on boosters and master cylinders. In the next part, we're going to take the master cylinder off this car here. We're going to look down into the booster and see if we can see any evidence of a problem inside. Hopefully not. And then I want to take the booster all apart. But we will be taking the master cylinder apart and seeing if this one can be rebuilt, because these master cylinders on these old cars are also getting very expensive.